Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So today is a little bit of a continuation from my last video. So in the last one, if you missed it, I was talking about how I've been struggling with artist block and being uninspired with what I'm working on and with not having much of a drive to start new pieces. And I really want to fix that. I want to get myself back on the path of feeling really invigorated with working on artwork. So today I am continuing working in acrylic. I talked about how I wanted to try out different mediums and really focus on the way that it can change my process and all the different ways that come with it. So I wanted today to be a piece that's a little bit more tailored to the benefits of acrylic. So with my last one that I did, I think that I was still a bit in the mindset of how I normally work and trying to bridge that gap. And I am absolutely still in that in-between point where I'm trying to figure out what things I want to continue in acrylics, what things I really want to push and figure out how to do, and other things that I want to see what acrylic itself can do and what it can add to the way that I work. So I wanted this one to be a little bit more painterly and built up in the way that I don't work when it comes to watercolors. I wanted this to change the way that I approach acrylics. And I had a lot of fun working on this one. So I'm going to try to keep track of the things that I enjoyed and that I learned, because it'll help me to move on in the future of figuring out what things I need to explore more on, how I can do it better and how I can practice those things, but also things that I am not really keen on or things that I just don't want stylistically in my work in the future. So one of the things that I was actually really happy with is the way that it built up into a more finalized piece. And that sounds super vague, but I think that the thing that I really struggled with in the past when I've dabbled very, very lightly tried out acrylics is that I will start to work on it and it feels like it's an absolute train wreck. I don't know where it's going and it doesn't look like it's working at all. Whereas with watercolors, since I work with a very line heavy process and I love line work, so when I start off painting in watercolor, it already has that structure there, so it feels like it's working from the very beginning. But with acrylics like this, where I'm not working with line work, it can feel like it's off kilter and I don't really know where I'm going with it yet. But I really tried to make sure that I was pushing past those feelings and to see it as a whole and not as a singular step that I was currently on. So I was really focusing on building up the layers to become the final version. And this is definitely a hard thing for me with acrylics because I don't have that practice or that skill set yet. So with watercolor, when I struggle with something similar like that, I know what it feels like and I know what my end goal can be and I know what skills I have at my disposal to get myself there. But with acrylics, it's more of this mysterious step into the unknown. But I built up with lighter layers to get placement of where the shadows would be and the basic colors that would be happening there. And then I built up more opaque colors as I went. I found that what I really enjoyed about this process is that it allowed me to create almost like a vectorized way of shading and giving it highlight, where it was these solid shapes of color, but I could also blend in certain areas as well so that it has a certain softness to it, but it still has a graphic look that I really actually like a lot. I don't love super overly blended looks, and that's something that I definitely need to get more practice on blending and getting really finessed shapes, especially in the face. So that is something that, while stylistically I like to view and I like to work in ways that it's a little bit different from that, it is something that I need more practice on because I need to be able to have that at my disposal. But I did really like being able to use both options in this and being able to get harder lines and softer lines. I definitely think that the softer lines is something I need to get a little bit more practice at, especially with acrylic, because it does dry quickly, which I love. Again, that's something that I really did want out of my acrylics. That's why I'm jumping to acrylics first instead of oils, which I am very interested in as well. But because I am used to things drying very quickly in watercolors, I didn't want to put myself completely out of my own depth where I'm really struggling with things drying at all. So yeah, I am enjoying the process of being able to build up rather than having to have things very correct from the very beginning with my watercolors. It was really eye-opening to be able to work on this piece in a way that I was placing things that didn't have to stay that way, but it was really there for my own structure and for me to plan it out in my head. I really love that. I love that it felt like it was a piece that was growing with me, and I was exploring it and experimenting with it as I worked on it, and not something that was already planned from the very beginning. And if I made a misstep, it was something that I would be frustrated with and I'd struggle with. So in a lot of ways, acrylic was very freeing to work with. It was a new path that I could go on where I was building this painting with the painting. It was something very tactile, and I could enjoy that. So I'm really hopeful about going into figuring this medium out a little bit more and really making it work the way that I want it to. But some of the things that I learned that I need to learn more of is I really want to figure out how to do glazing correctly. I know that there's a glazing medium that I can get, which I will be going and purchasing and being able to incorporate that into my work and figuring out how to use it. And I know that there are some acrylic paints that are very transparent. I have an alizarin crimson paint that's very transparent, and I know that other ones are much more opaque. So it's all a process of figuring this out, but glazing in acrylic is definitely an unknown for me. I've done a little bit of research, and a lot of my learning is going to come from a combination of finding resources online as well as actually practicing and doing it. But I know that there are points in this painting where I wish that I could have a better handle of that so that I could get certain effects and get certain colors the way that I wanted them to. And it's exciting to be able to have this thing that I'm ready to learn and I'm ready to figure it out, because it does open a lot of doors once I figure it out, but it also means that it's something that I can actively practice. And I find that to be really a great motivator to work and to create more paintings, which is, again, something that I've been struggling with. I've been struggling with having that internal motivation to want to create paintings. So to have this big question that I need to be able to answer as far as the skills to create a glaze in acrylics, it's pushing me to be more excited about painting and to want to create a new painting. I also found that working in acrylic like this is really nostalgic for me. It's making me remember times in my middle school days or my high school days when I used acrylic and I created these paintings. I can remember vividly a few of the paintings that I did, and I was so excited about working on them. And that's the energy that I'm trying to reconnect with, this love for art that I really strongly felt when I was younger, and I feel that it's faded in time, and I want to get back to that. But I do remember the times where I would create this acrylic painting and I just would spend all day building it up and being mesmerized as I was creating this new painting. And it was a time in my art career when I was not committed to a certain medium besides digital. Digital was like my jam during that time, and it still is. I love digital. But as far as traditional stuff, I hadn't settled on one or the other. So I was trying out a lot of different things, and I was jumping from one to the other. And I think that in a lot of ways that was really, really good for me. I mean, it was certainly good for me at that time in my art life where I didn't know what I was doing yet. So I was able to try out a lot of different things. But it's something that I think that I could get a lot of benefit out of working that way now, because I would love to be able to be pushed out of my own thought process, the things that are drilled into the way that I think every single time. And I'd love to be able to be more in this exciting experimental mindset, something where it's an experiment to go find if it turns into the kind of painting that I wanted it to, or if it has this energy that I wanted. So I love being able to revisit these tools that I didn't really give a lot of attention to since this time in my life when I was feeling really optimistic about my art. And that is it for today. I do have this original painting available at my art shop, so if you'd like to own a little original, I have a link down in the description that'll take you right over there. And I'd love to hear from you guys if you have ever revisited an old art tool that you've used in the past or a technique and how that went for you. If you're interested in doing it now, I love hearing about the process that you guys go through as well. But that is it for today, so I will be back Saturday with another video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you then.